Hey guys, my name is Mike Carleo, and this is my 8th installment of my Guitar Player Backpack. And today, I'm going to be going over palm muting. Now, palm muting is an essential part to all guitar playing, whether acoustic or electric. It creates a sense of contrast and dynamic as we play. So today, I'm going to go over some ways in which we can get more comfortable with palm muting in both chords and also single note playing. So, let's get started. First, let's go over the technique of palm muting. Now, there are two things to do. The first thing is to press down very lightly on the strings with the outer part of your palm, from the pinky muscle all the way to the base of your hand. And you're going to want to use that meaty part on the inside. Not the side, but the meaty part on the actual palm. That's why it's called palm muting. So, like I said, you want to press very lightly on the strings. Now, the second thing to do is to make sure that you're pressing almost on top, but not quite, very near the bridge of the guitar. So on my Les Paul, my bridge is located just behind the bridge pickup. So that'll give us the best sound when palm muting. So for instance, okay. Now the further I move away from the bridge when I'm palm muting, it's not going to sound as good, and it's going to sound very muddy and clunky, and you actually won't be able to make out the notes that you're playing. So I'm going to show you how bad it sounds the further I move away from the bridge. So I can't actually hear a sound of the note, but I'm also creating almost like a phase type of sound. Now if you're going for that, that makes more sense to do, but when you're doing basic palm muting, you want to keep your hand as close to the bridge as possible, lightly pressing on the strings. Now let's get to some ways that we can practice our palm muting. To keep it nice and simple, I like to start off teaching Smoke on the Water. Now, not the lead part as we all know, this part, but the actual rhythm part behind it. Now this is the palm muted power chord part, and it only has two notes if you're just doing the introduction, G and F. So we're going to play 3 measures of G, and then the last measure, the 4th measure, is going to have 2 beats of G and then 2 beats of F. So we're going to practice palm muting and also releasing the palm and creating a sense of that contrast. So where the F comes from on beat 3 and 4 of the last measure, you're going to release the palm and then go back to it, so we have a sense of contrast. So here it is. So we had that sense of contrast of releasing the palm and also putting the palm on. Now, one thing that I'm doing is I'm accenting certain notes. On a song like this, I'm going to be wanting to accent the downbeats of each measure. So when I'm doing 1, 2, 3, so I want to accent each downbeat or each strong beat and have a little bit of a lighter articulation on the upbeats. Now, there are all types of ways you can use palm muting and where you're accenting. And when you're accenting, you can lift off and then put your palm back on. So if you wanted to do a different version, you can do it like this. Or this. That's where the upbeats are accented. But in this case, we're going to accent the downbeats. So let's try that one more time. Good. So that is a very important way how to learn palm muting in a very simple fashion by accenting just the downbeats and also doing a simple song like Smoke on the Water. So if you're playing with somebody, you can have somebody do the lead and also the behind. So I do this with my students all the time, and it's a lot of fun to do. Let's get to another tune. So let's work on a song that has a little less gain and more of a clean sound. And this time, we're going to be working on more of the accenting part that goes along with the vocal line. So this is a very good technique when you're playing behind a vocalist. So we're going to be using a song called 4 or 5 Seconds by Rihanna, written by Paul McCartney. And we're going to be using chords down on the open sector in the first position, rather than the chords that he uses on the song. Okay? So the first chord, we're going to work on the chorus. So the first chord is going to be a D, a G, and that repeats 3 times. Okay? So it's going to go 4, 5 seconds. Back and forth. And the last part has a B minor bar chord to an A. And we're going to play this A chord with just our first finger barring across the D, the G, and the B string on the 2nd fret, only plucking the middle 4 strings. Okay, the outer 2 strings are being muted. Okay, so we want to be able to try to emulate what the vocal line is doing. So 4, 5 seconds from violin. Okay, so we want to accent those beats as well when we're playing. So. So we're accenting certain notes that go along with the song, certain beats that go along with the song. Now, a lot of the times we want to be able to create that sense of emulation when it comes to the vocals so that we know that the audience knows that we're listening and we're all communicating with the band. So this is a great way how to be able to play behind a vocalist, is accent certain beats and certain beats that she's not singing on as well. So we have a sense of contrast and dynamic as well. All right, so we're going to practice this once. I know my singing is beautiful, but I'm going to keep it to myself right now. So here we go. So. Now, a cool thing that palm muting does, it helps us make more the accents a little more, let's say, noticeable. Okay, so when we like to kick measures or anticipate that measure of a chord, when we play in the and of 4 rather than playing just on the downbeat, it makes those stick out more, which is really cool. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So it makes those chords sound really cool as well, and we have a sense of volume dynamic with that. So that's a good way to practice with the vocalists and also when you're playing with the band, to be able to listen and accent certain beats of a measure. So now let's get to single note palm muting. Palm muting is also an essential tool when you're soloing. Now, when you're building a solo, you may want to start your solo when you're palm muting to create that sense of low volume and dynamic, and then when you're building through your solo to let it open up a little bit as the band comes up in dynamic as well. Also, when the band breaks down, or when you want to have your solo break down, you may want to try to keep that same type of attitude when you're playing, but play at low volume, and that's where palm muting comes in handy. Now, if you want to practice this, a great way to practice is just practicing your pentatonic scales or your modes or your blues scales. So we're going to practice an A minor scale, or A minor pentatonic scale, using our palm muting. Okay, so we'll play a regular scale without palm muting. Now, when you're palm muting single notes, your hand is going to stay straight again at a 45-degree angle, and your hand is going to shift down the strings as you get to the top strings. So you want to just have a little bit of a shift as you play to make sure that all the strings are muted. Okay, so it's going to be better at the bottom strings than it is the top strings, because the bottom strings are wounded and it has a little bit of more vibration. So you want to try to keep that sense of really, really lightness, light pressure on the string, so that all the strings ring out. You're not too light where it's open, but just very, very light pressure on the string. Very close to the bridge as well. So here we go. So you can practice that across all of the shapes and get used to doing that when you're playing. So in context, so we have a little bit of palm muting, a little bit of letting it open, and that creates an awesome, awesome dynamic when you're playing. So that's single note playing. So as you can see, palm muting is an essential tool for any experienced guitar player. Whether you're playing rhythm on a high gain tune such as Smoke on the Water, or a low gain tune such as 4 or 5 seconds on an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar, it's very, very important for us to be able to create that sense of contrast and dynamic. Now, if you're trying to build a solo, it's so important because it helps us build the solo into which we have a sense of motion and direction, and also helps us break it down into a groove. So if you want to get to learn about me more, you can check me out at my website below, michaelcarleo.com, for more information. Thanks for checking out this installment. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.